now we're going to begin this discussion. And I'm going to start the first question with Onwana. And we're going to talk about rethinking access to capital. So fintech and AI. Talk to us about how fintech and now AI are redefining access to property finance and payments, especially in emerging markets.
Thank you, Sylvia. Good afternoon. Okay, so I like to think about this in 4 parts. First of all, in emerging markets, you start talking about infrastructure, right? So you start thinking about things like wallets. You start thinking about things like access to credits. You start thinking about things like embedded finance, right? For us, when we started thinking about how best to accelerate whether it's adoption or acceptance in this regard, you start thinking about the tools or the technologies that can help make that happen very quickly. So today you have traditional banking systems where you walk into a bank and things like that. Now you have access to mobile money. Okay, so a lot of these transactions, microtransactions now happen on your mobile phone. Technology has moved, somewhat in that area. And this shift also helps with access to capital, especially for PropTech players, as we like to call ourselves. Then when you start talking about alternative finance solutions as well, because you don't have this limited access to credit history and things like that, right? With AI, you can layer on top technologies that can help bring some of those non-traditional transactional data, so behavioral habits on your mobile phones, what you're doing with your mobile apps, that can also inform what kind of access you can get, and then you start talking about embedded finance. Within the PropTech space, access to credit, okay, is largely a function of information that is available to make certain decisions a lot more quickly. So with embedded finance solutions, you can create microcredits or offer micro loans, as it were, buy now, pay later products. These are innovative alternatives to some of these challenges that we're going to see in the emerging markets. And then I'd like to end it by highlighting digital solutions, right? So when you digitize this entire process, from everything I've said from the beginning, you now begin to have a better understanding of what is possible. And that also helps with accelerating capital. Thank you.
And I suppose this question is for all of you. Where do you see the biggest opportunities when it comes to embedded finance? Is it, as you mentioned, BNPL? We now have the emergence of RNPL, rent now, pay later, an AI-driven risk assessment for real estate.
Okay, so I would like to start by saying the biggest opportunities, you just start thinking about who are you serving the most, right? So in emerging markets, the underserved, the largest population. I remember some of my colleagues earlier today were talking about how do we bridge the gap, right, between access to credit and things like that. But also when you start talking about the lower pyramid, right, the underserved, you need to start looking at the regulations that help to provide that sort of inclusion, okay, and access, right? So I think for me, that's where we need to start. I don't know if my colleagues have other thoughts on this. You do?
Okay, we'll move on to smart living and human-centric design in the AI era. So as AI and IoT drive smart community experiences, how do we make sure that they remain human-centric rather than purely tech-driven? Wow.
Okay, so today when we talk about technology, we are talking about making everything easier. It's not about replacing already the humans that are working on it. We want to make the processes simpler, integrated, and let's say quicker on their flow. So looking forward to the IoTs and the deep technologies that we are using today. If you told me 3 years ago that you would be able to own your property, get your key, manage your property, maintain the water, the electricity, and parking through your mobile device, I will tell you this is crazy, this is not applicable, impossible. But today, where the technology are going is making everything like the impossible dream coming true, especially here in Saudi Arabia today. We see a lot of development on that part, on the PropTech side. So we have a lot of cases that I've seen by my own self, saying that we never thought that we can get this. Today, if you traveled far away and you have a water leaking, you don't need someone to break your door to get in it and to switch off the water. You can close it through your mobile. So there's a lot of cases that I've already noticed by my own self that says, okay, we can enable technology to be maintained by the humans, the operation humans, but we can't take technologies without humans. You need to keep them there so that you can be sure that's already maintained, working properly, and managed there.
And I want to hear from Abdelaziz, because you're witness to a lot of the PropTech initiatives that are coming out of Saudi Arabia. So how do you think the kingdom's PropTech ecosystem is evolving to integrate AI in traffic, parking, community management?
Perfect. Thank you, first of all. I think when we talk about PropTech, it's in these days it's not a luxury thing. You need to have it. It's not an option. It's a must. What's happening now across the world, we need to be part of it and take the lead on it. So when we talk about developer perspective, it's a whole journey. We started from selecting the land. Then we have it also in the design and the master plan that we have in the project, coming through the execution part until to the sales and marketing. So every stage we are having the mandatory to use the AI and the PropTech. So we use the 3D design. We do the virtual videos and interactions to understand the whole project goes where. When we talk about the construction, we have the data collection and the data analytics, understanding where we stand in this project and are we on track on it, what we face in different area and different stage. So it's a must. It's not a luxury, and it's not a part of the project. It's the whole journey. It's a whole ecosystem.
And you all have access to a lot of data coming from these communities. What is the data telling you in your niche?
Okay, so today when we talk about our experience as developing a community management system that's already targeted the real estate developers, the kind of data that we have today will enable any real estate developer in the market to know where is the best place that he can develop on, what's the mentality of the people on that area, and what's the prices that they're expecting. Because by the end of the day, if you want to sell fast and you want to sell with a specific price and invest a specific, let's say, assets on that property and materials, you need to know what's your benefit, what's your revenue. So to get that, let's say, part of the data, you need to analyze a lot of stuff, the behavior, the user experience, the availability of the people to adopt already the properties of that type to be already sold. The second thing is from commercial part. So today, from the commercial community management, we can analyze already the traffic and the people that's visiting the malls, their ages, their mentalities, what's the kind of the thing that they prefer to have, do they have kids or no? So when I go and, let's say, list a property to be leased, I know how can I prepare it? Is it a play zone, a gym, or a supermarket? So the data lead to a lot of stuff, and it's an asset for any PropTech company. And any PropTech solution today, I know they know for a fact that they couldn't continue with their model only. They need to utilize the data that they own with different ways.
So you could even be at a stage where you could price a mall or units in the mall based on footfall. Like, this footfall is very heavy. We have the data to back it up. And for that reason, your rent is going up by X.
Exactly. And this is a case that we are doing on one mall in Riyadh, which is the town center on Al-Arad. And we are supporting them on what to lease, how much it's going to be leased per square meter, and what's the actions, or let's say the activities that can be leased to.
And Abdelaziz, how are developers using these analytics to turn data into measurable value?
Yeah. If we come to the data, it's a huge a platform, and it's really changing the whole strategy of investment and the whole strategy of development, and understanding how change is happening in your assets that you own or your projects that you work on. So, for example, we have several malls. We use data analytics to understanding and monitoring the behavior of the visitors. And what exactly happened, it changed our strategy of marketing and branding after understanding which area that having more footfall and the type of the gender having there, and also the different generation happening. So we have kids, we have youth visiting, and they visit in different areas. And when we understand it and we analyze it, we understand that we need to focus about what exactly the target that they want and what exactly they miss there. So also we understand how many hours or the average spending in the mall in each category, from kids, families, and youth also. And what we did, we assign a project to understand which areas tracking much more in different segments. So from the kids' perspective and families, we understand the kids' areas, and also the kids' shop are driving the families and the kids. And the things, what happened, we drive them advertising and the marketing panels to the product that matching their needs and matching their interest. So also, even the activities that we are doing in the whole mall, we focus on what exactly the areas having more attract and more visit. So what we did, we select different projects, events in these areas that increase the spend of each visual visitor to the mall, and we increase the number very high last 6 months by doing this practice, by using this data and understanding exactly what they want and how they want to activate and how they want to spend the time in it.
It's fascinating. You think you're going to the mall just to get something, but you're being tracked, you're being monitored and manipulated.
A case study for any data later on. Each visitor is a case study by himself.
And what about residential? So we obviously malls and shopping centres are public space, but I assume, or I would like to think, that in residential it's a bit more private. What is activity being able to kind of tell you when it comes to residential?
Okay, when we talk about the residential part, it's a totally another case, because the data on that side doesn't go into the scope of selling and getting revenue from selling properties itself. You are studying the behavior of the residents inside the community. So you need to provide them the best services to increase their satisfaction and to be sure that they're living their best life with a high quality. So the first thing that can be driven by data within the residential part is the maintenance and the warranty section. So today, if you are a real estate developer and you developed a project and you've noticed that there is a lot of requests on the ACs from that module. So in the upcoming project, you wouldn't use the same, or you wouldn't do the same on the same area because it's not coding the area, so it's not worth it. The second thing is the activities and the behavior of the residents inside the community. So some of the communities or the buildings are mainly owned, let's say, by men that use it as a vacation house when they visit Riyadh. Some of it is a family already communities, and a lot of cases that we have here. So analyzing the behavior and the reasons of the residential communities can give you a good insight on the type of properties that you need to develop in the future. What do you need to put in, and how you can increase their satisfaction with adding facilities, services, entertainment areas, and however. Yeah.
And Unwana, any intel?
Yes, it's interesting. And I'd just like to add, Okay. So it's also useful that insights that are generated from utilities, okay, are also tracked and leveraged when you're making some of these decisions as well. Utilities from electricity, water, and the likes, okay? It gives you a good sense of the behavior in those, I call them verticals, right? And you can also extend this beyond residential into commercial buildings as well. So as you're thinking about improving, optimizing your facility management as a service, right, you leverage those insights to provide better services, right? And that also helps with property value, investor uptake or appetite for things like this. So absolutely, as you are designing this PropTech concept, as it were, it's also important that you start putting together deliberately or intentionally, okay, how do you begin to measure usage, consumption, and how does that translate to improving the experience, like she mentioned, okay? So I think we're pretty much all saying the same thing in different ways, and it's testament to the fact that now is the time as operators, as I like to call us, okay, that we continue to do even more with the data that we have access to, right? Because this informs the next level of innovation that needs to come before we start talking about other stakeholders and how they can add value.
And one thing that kind of always intrigues me in the region, and I'm from Dubai, and well, I originally am from London or the UK, and there's a big focus there on, I'm going completely off topic, but a big focus on recycling and, not using or overusing plastic. And my sister, who now lives in Riyadh, she's like, all the work I'm doing in London, saving on plastic bags, is being undone here. Because you'll get a delivery with 5 items in 5 separate plastic bags. Water usage, do you switch off the water, the tap, when you're brushing your teeth, or do you just let it run? I'm guilty of just letting it run. So how can we kind of use this data or information for the greater good and sustainability, not just consumption and cost, but also saving the planet?
Okay, so one of the data that we've been including in our scope within this year is the water and the electricity. And it's hard to be monitored because today if you ask anyone, even though in this room, what's your usage of the electricity till today, he wouldn't give you a specific answer. So one of the IoTs that we've been focused on is a flow meter and a sensor that we linked with the residential and the commercial, so that they can see the usage of their water and electricity and notice where is the most usage of it and the time of it, so that they can see, okay, I am already spending a lot of water on putting it in the garden in the morning, and I leave the water working and I don't close it and I leave, and then I come back after 30 minutes and I close it. So that caused me an increasement in my invoice with, let's say, 10%. So خلاص, I already can close it, put it on 5, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And even though on the electricity, I can know if there is a stairs that there is electricity on it, I can close it, a specific room that not used, and however. That impact 2 parts, not just the environment and the sustainability. That impacts also the financial part for the people and for the companies itself. So we are hitting 2 goals on that part. And this is one of my beliefs, actually, the things that I've dreamed to do in my whole career with the PropTech.
I mean, for me, I only just pay attention to, is it more expensive than last month? And, if it's,
you don't know.
Different.
Yes.
But in Dubai, what they actually do is they say, you are using 10% more energy than your neighbors. And then it feels a bit like, oh, I can't be the one that's excessive. So
I was going to add that, in my locale, we have a big infrastructure deficit. Okay, so we've not pretty much matured as you have places like Dubai and London, right? So for us, it is important that we are very deliberate about saving money. Okay, so that informs the type of properties that we want to rent, lease, or even buy, location and whatnot. But more importantly, access to these utilities and at what cost. Now, imagine living in an environment where you run a lot of diesel, okay? So the government infrastructure is not up to par or is not as available, right? And it's expensive to run your own electricity, right? So it becomes very important that you have tools or technologies that informs you almost in real time about what your consumption looks like, okay? Because you know what your income is. Like I said, we live, it's cash, right? So at the end of the day, you now have tools that provides not just that insight, but also helps you make informed decisions on how to utilize these utilities across the board. Now, for the facility managers, for example, it becomes very important for them because at the end of the day, they plan better, they schedule their maintenance a lot better, a lot more effectively, and they save a lot of costs. So not only are we saving costs for carbon footprint and all, but you're also saving costs in terms of your actual cash flow, right? In addition to that, when we're talking about sensors, they also help, okay? They help provide information at the point where we think there are gaps or leakages and things like that, because plugging those gaps also helps in the ground design to improve not just the facility, as it were, but also how you interact with everything that's going on. You can lay on top of it other things like security access, visitor management systems, and things like that. But at the end of the day, you want to have that comfort that indeed the technology that you subscribe into elevates your living, your condition. That's how we like to see it sometimes.
And moving on to another part of the next frontier, which is certainly fractional ownership, blockchain, and regulation. So I want to have a conversation about the rising interest in fractional ownership, tokenized real estate funds, and how you all see blockchain reshaping property financing models.
Okay, I'll take a first stab at that, okay? So first word that comes to mind is yes. Yes, in the sense that this is a welcome innovation, because especially from where I'm from, you need to get creative accessing some of these, not just technologies, but opportunities to own a home and things like that, especially where the lower part of the pyramid earns less than $20 a day, or even a month, as it were, okay? So yeah, when you merge blockchain and tokenization, it offers that alternative access, okay? But it's not a silver bullet, the way I say it. There are concerns around regulation. There are concerns around investor appetites, right? The fact that you've leveraged this whole concept, can you actually sell quickly, and things like that. So there's still a lot more, especially in the emerging market, but it is a welcome innovation that gives you that access to own, your dream property, as it were.
I think it might also be a generational thing. I know certainly, okay, I'll put us all in the same generation. We grew up knowing that you haven't made it in life until you've become a homeowner, and you have to purchase property as early as possible. But I feel that the next generations, or what were they, Gen X or Gen, what, I don't know, Gen Z, they don't have that same, investment desire. They don't feel the need to own property. But is this more suitable for them? I can own a fraction of property, and I can own a fraction of crypto, whatever else it may be, diversifying their investments. What are the behaviors of the next generation?
So I believe that the next generation doesn't want to live on one area. They don't believe on owning a house just to live on it. They see it from other perspective, which is investment. They need to have a fractional ownership on a property so that they can invest it and get some already cash flow from it. So owning a property that you own a part of it or small equity can enable you to have a small investment based on your cash flow and revenue and these stuff without getting a lot of effort in your pocket by the end of the day. You buy a small part of the property, it's invested, you get cash flow, and maybe one day you sell it with excess of zeros behind. Yeah, you exit it. So this is one of the things actually that started to be regulated in Saudi Arabia from the sandbox. And we have actually, I believe, 4 companies right now. And it's a promising sector, as I see.
So, you mentioned the sandbox. What other regulatory processes are needed to unlock this innovation safely?
For the fractional ownership, I think the sandbox is taking the full responsibility of all the parts of it, from the PropTech part and the FinTech part, both of them.
And a lot of PropTech founders, I'm guessing, will be in the room seeking investment.
Yeah.
This is where we'll come to you, Abdulaziz. What are the institutional investors currently seeking from PropTech and AI-driven startups?
I think as yesterday's sessions, if you recall, as a PropTech, we are just started. So it's just, when we talk about PropTech 5 years back or 7 years back, nobody knows about it. So it's really new. So the doors is really open for different ideas from development perspective. Different phases before the project, we can have different technologies and product that can help the developers. Even the development cycle in Saudi needs a lot of also technologies, innovations, and also initiatives to reduce cost, reduce time. It's the coming days. It's about time. If you do the things in a fast way, good way, in the right quality, it's really the right movement. What's going on in the whole city and the whole country, on the transformation happening in the real estate area, is making that the market much more open for having new technologies in different areas, from design perspective, from construction, monitoring, from project management, following up, from sales approach, marketing approach, facility management. It's a whole story. So I think the doors are open. As an Andalus company, we are open also to invest in different technologies that can be part of changing different behaviors on the development sector as a whole.
So, you mentioned that Andalus is investing in tech startups.
Yes.
You must see a lot of pitch decks on a daily basis. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to founders when it comes to approaching you?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to understand things. If you are talking about an investor and a developer, the most three important things that he's talking about: reducing the cost of the project, increasing the efficiency, and increasing the time, or increasing the quality of the project. So even if we talk about these three elements that really make different when we talk about technologies, doing it in the right way by having the know-how of the pain that the real estate having in these days is much important to invest in. So we saw a lot of ideas in different areas, but I think the most important thing is to be inside the mindset of the developer and be part of how the process goes from A to Z, from the land, from the concepts, from the mixed use, from the traffic, from the parking, from the accessibility, from the operation, from facility management. So it's having different areas. When we talk about it, we talk about being inside the project, being inside the concept. You will get much more ideas and much more initiatives that we think that it can change the whole game in the real estate development.
Amazing.
I'd like to flip that, right? So the question was, what are they looking for? I'm a founder, right? So what am I also looking for when I look at investors? I like to flip that. So a lot of things that he's mentioned, I totally agree, right? But for me, I'm also looking for that investor fit, right? The problems, the bigger the problem, the bigger the money to be made, that's for sure. But critically, the type of investor that I will be open to working with is one that understands the problem, they were looking to solve, not just for today, but for tomorrow, right? So it goes beyond understanding my operations today. I need an investor that can take me from where I am today to where I need to be, okay? Because it's only then that we can begin to add the kind of value and unlock those opportunities that we think are already present, right? So I just wanted to add that. So it's not just about the operations.
It's certainly a two-way street. You've got to pick the right startup, but the startup then might be in a luxurious position of having to choose the investor. So it's going to be about who can they connect you with in the future, what doors can they open, and so on. And speaking of doors opening, we have a female PropTech founder with us, and I'd love to get your advice for female founders, particularly in Saudi Arabia, when it comes to gaining investor trust and navigating the early stage ecosystem.
Okay, just a point on what Mr. Abdulaziz said previously on understanding the right problem. Most of the PropTech solutions today on the market, they have a fantastic solution. It's a great solution. It's when you see it, the user experience, the interfaces, the technical activities that has been done on it, it's great. But when you come to the pain that they're fixing or they're covering, you couldn't exactly see the impact on it. So we've experienced this in the beginning. We wanted to do something so fancy, so nice, to be already provided for the real estate developers, and that's it. And then we took a step back. We've realized we need to go on ground, understand the pain, understand the issues, to fix it through technology. It's not the opposite side. Anyone can do anything through technology. Usually I say to my business teams, cars can fly with technology. I can put a wings to the car and it can fly, just define the color and already the size of it. So usually what we do, we go on the ground, we work with our clients exactly day-by-day activity for 1-2 weeks, and we do these activities each 3-6 months to highlight the pain points that they need to cover and what can we do through it with technologies. This is the first part that I want to reply to Abdulaziz to.
And that's it. We'll come back to the point about female founders, but it's an interesting point because, like you said, PropTech is quite new. We've always had real estate technology, but the term PropTech is, it sounds nicer, it sounds more investable. But the advice I was always given, I was a PropTech founder many years ago, and I always heard this saying, don't be a solution looking for a problem, find the problem and look for the solution. And that's the message that's being repeated here. Get into the mind of your ideal customer, your IC, your ideal customer, and start fixing their problems.
Exactly. So in the beginning, as a case, we started by, let's say, we did a simple user experience and that's it. And then when we went to the market for investors and for our clients, they said it looks so nice, it's easy to be used, but still we are having pain, even though with the system. So once we touched the pain and we started to fixing it, the clients came to us, we didn't go to them. So it works with the other way. Coming to the point for the woman founder, actually I went to the PropTech sector because one day one of the companies told me you couldn't work with us and you couldn't go to meetings because you are women and PropTech sector is not enabled to get Saudi women into it. So I decided, okay, I will try it and I will give it a hit, and if it went successful, so this is my answer for anyone that can say that we can do it. There is a lot of challenges that we're facing, not only as a woman, as a founder in PropTech, but everything is changing in Saudi Arabia. We are more enabled than before, and we have the access to the market more than anyone before, and we're growing. So no issue, no specific highlighted issues at that part.
Well, you're very inspirational, and wishing you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about bridging another gap, the gap to adoption, collaboration, because real estate is such a huge ecosystem. There's so many moving parts from the beginning to the end, and there is no end. It's just a continuous cycle. And if you adopt that mentality of like, we are just on our own, no, you have to merge with the rest of the ecosystem to be a success. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think the biggest obstacles to closing the innovation to finance gap in PropTech is? Is it regulation? Is it adoption? Or I like the word that you used, Onwana, acceptance.
Okay. So in one word, for me, it's going to be regulation. But let me touch on adoption and acceptance. One word, regulation. Biggest. That'll be the biggest, right? But let me touch on adoption and acceptance. So when you understand the value chain within the PropTech space, and you now layer the fintech element on top of it, indeed, we need to regulate a few things. That's one. But on the flip side, from the facility managers, operators, investors, property owners, they need to accept, right, that this new way of doing things, okay, like you mentioned, real estate had softwares prior to PropTech, right? We just tried, PropTech just helps to democratize access in one way or on the other. Now, that's on the one hand, okay? Then you now look at the adopters, right? So I'm the last mile end user, right? I need to adopt this technology. So I come into Dubai, it's a culture change, right? I need to use a particular mobile app, okay, to access utilities, right? Adoption has already happened by the owners of that facility. I need to accept that I'm going to make payments using that app, right? Now, what happens when there's massive non-acceptance? Everything fails, right? So the concept of adoption and acceptance is equally important. But what glues everything together, I think, is the regulation, right? But then again, regulation today, when we're thinking about it, I like to say that technology is moving so quickly that regulation is catching up, right? We need to get to that point where, as operators or as founders, okay, we need to increase the velocity of regulation. So for that to happen, we need to be actively part of that conversation, okay, so that when the regulators or the policymakers are framing how this should work, right, we are doing it together, right? So for me, I feel like the biggest obstacle is regulation. We need to be an active part of it to form and frame it, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And then at the same time, create the frameworks to improve or accelerate acceptance and adoption from all stakeholders. That's how I like to see it.
If you allow me, I think the point of regulation is really interesting. So what's going on in Saudi now, the regulator is much more enabler than before. And the thing is, the thing must come from investors and developers to the regulator, not the other way. So what's going on now, they are open for having new ideas. And we tried different ideas and different concepts that from the PropTech ideas, and they were very supportive. And I think what we can do, it's be part of the investor and the developer and who own the idea, and we can have the approval with the process. But I think if we are talking about waiting, the regulator changing the whole regulation, nothing will happen in the short time. It's the other way, and this is what we saw in the previous 6 to 2 years back when we talk about regulator in different areas.
And it's funny, I mean, a lot of the great startup success stories, you look at Uber, for example, you know, their original motto was like, move fast and break things. Don't wait for regulation because it will slow you down to some degree. And there's that other saying of like, make the mistake, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So there's an element of that, but of course we're not encouraging any.
Actually, we are having one of, let's say, one of the not the biggest, the qualified infrastructure over the world as a PropTech, and we have the full support from the regulators. So whenever we have, let's say, an idea need to be regulated through already, as I told you, through the fractional ownership and the sandbox, We have a good communication as a PropTech startup companies with the regulator, and we just put it in the table, discuss it, and see how we're gonna apply it.
And I'd like to finish off by getting your final golden nuggets. So I'd like each panelist to share their ultimate takeaway, prediction, or call to action for the next frontier of PropTech.
Ladies first.
Okay. She was looking to you, so that's why. My advice is that the PropTech in Saudi Arabia is growing so fast. We have a lot of companies that are competing on creative ideas. For any entrepreneur that want to enter the market on the PropTech, it's the right time. Later on, I don't think that they're going to have the space to do it. Also, as I said before, don't do fancy solutions. Figure out the problem and do the solution based on this. Because whenever you touch the pain, it's easier to you to grow, to get more share of the market quickly, and to build a good structure for your company in the future.
Thank you. So I'll just add to that. I feel like the theme of today's session around trying to close that gap, one word that comes to mind is convergence. And we've said convergence in one way or form during the course of today. I feel like we need to be very deliberate about working together. So she mentioned competition, right? So let's break things, let's break them fast, right? But let's also do this with the confidence that we have the regulators to help us, frame it better, okay? So it will require a multi-dimensional approach from everyone. And if the intention is to continue or to grow and make impact and leave legacy, right? We need to be bold enough to ensure that we hold everyone together. Another way I would like to think about it is this. If we have 3 players, just think of 3 players. You have operators such as us, or founders, as it were, right? And then you have the investors, okay? And then you now have the regulators, okay? What I've just done is I've put together a line plot, right? In no particular order, by the way. But we need to align, okay? So everyone is on the same line. So whether it's backward integration or forward integration, with no one feeling like they're the leader or they're the follower, and we just keep expanding the impact within each vertical. Convergence happens that way, and that's how that's the future I see in terms of how we collaborate together. So yeah, so convergence is the word I would like to leave this session with. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have two messages, two different. So from to developers, I think they need to think different this way and to understand more that if you don't understand how the technology changing the whole projects and the master plan of your projects and the city going on, you will be too late. So now you need to enter this part of technology and make it as ad of your whole story. So having it now is the right time. It will definitely reduce your cost and effort, plus the increasing the efficiency that you have. And if I'm talking about for entrepreneur, I think the entrepreneur need to be much more closer to the investors and closer to the developers, much more to understand the pain and to find a solution for the pains that exactly happening now. There is a lot of pains from from the first stage to the end we are facing, and I think there is a lot of tools and behavior that can change by having different type of technologies. So I think this is the right time now.
Amazing. Well, that's it for this session. I'd like to thank my lovely panelists, Waad, Onwana, and Abdulaziz, and thank you all for staying till the end.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.